Let's talk about the 32 biggest mistakes in GCSE Chemistry Paper 1 and how you're not going to make them. Hi, my name's Dr. De Bruin. I'm a GCSE and A-level science teacher, and I also make revision videos on YouTube. Every year, students make the same mistakes, driving their teachers and examiners up the wall. Number 1, metals don't make molecules. So whether you're talking about a pure metal, an alloy, or an ionic compound like sodium chloride, just don't use the word metal. Number 2, the mass number of an atom is for one particular atom, and it's the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. That's different to the relative atomic mass, which is a weighted average of all of the different isotopes. Speaking of isotopes, we all know they have different numbers of neutrons and the same number of protons, but if you don't say they're atoms, then you're not getting the marks. Number 4, every atom only has one outer shell. So you can't say that potassium has more outer shells than sodium, because it doesn't, it only has one. Number 5, an observation has to be something that you can see or detect. Bubbles, yes. Colour change, yes. Fire, yes. But not a gas is produced, and certainly not an electron is lost. If my primary school nephews can't tell you it, then it's not an observation. Your 6th big mistake would be missing out on my totally free live stream. Sorry, I had to. Number 7, the plum pudding model doesn't have one big proton. It doesn't have any protons at all, it's just a great big ball of positive charge with electrons scattered through it. Number 8, if you're asked to explain the reactivity of the alkali metals or the halogens, you can't just say, oh, it's because alkali metals get more reactive as you go down the group and halogens get more reactive as you go up the group. You need to be talking about the attraction between the outer shell electrons and the nucleus. And number 9, you need to be specifying that it's the outer shell electron. It's no good saying that in potassium the electrons are further from the nucleus than in lithium, because some of them aren't. The first shell and the second shell are right where you left them. Number 10, alloys like steel are not compounds, they're mixtures. Number 11, Dalton didn't describe atoms as invisible, he said they were indivisible, in other words you can't divide them. Number 12, if you're describing ionic bonding, you can't just say that magnesium gives electrons to oxygen. One magnesium atom gives 2 electrons to one oxygen atom. And number 12, when that happens, you form an oxide ion. Be really careful with the names of your negative ions. Oxide, sulfide, chloride, bromide. I've lost count now. So the next one is that nanoparticles are a few hundred atoms. That one was specifically called out because nobody knew it. Number 13, if you're talking about diamond or graphite or silicon dioxide, they are giant covalent structures containing thousands or even millions of atoms. 15, I think. If you're asked why diamond has a high melting point, you need to be talking about how it takes a lot of energy to break the covalent bonds. But if you're asked why it has a higher melting point than, I don't know, oxygen, then you need to be making a comparative statement about how it takes more energy to overcome those strong covalent bonds than the weakened molecular forces between oxygen. Number 16, ionic compounds do not have delocalized electrons. Number 17, metals do have delocalized electrons, and they conduct electricity and thermal energy by moving through the substance. Not throughout, not across, not around, through. Number 17, if you are doing triple science and you have to write about titration and you're picking an indicator, you cannot use universal indicator. You need something with a sharp colour change like phenolphthalein or methyl orange. Number 18, those pesky conversions. Anything about titration or just concentration in general. Remember that the volume is almost certainly measured in centimetres cubed, but your concentration is going to be in grams per decimetre cubed or moles per decimetre cubed. So you convert centimetres cubed to decimetres cubed by dividing by 1,000. Likewise, number 9, you should be able to convert grams to milligrams and micrograms and nanograms, all of which you do by multiplying by 1,000. As in, it's 1,000 to get from grams to milligrams and 1,000 to get from milligrams to micrograms. Number 20, hydrochloric, sulfuric and nitric are examples of strong acids, which means that they completely ionise in aqueous solution. That is different to being concentrated, which just means that you put a lot of the acid into the water. And 21, if we're defining our weak and strong acids, we need to be saying in aqueous solution, or I guess you could get away with when dissolved in water. 22, when a metal oxide reacts with an acid, you do get a salt, but you don't get hydrogen, you get water. Just think, it's just like a metal reacting with an acid, but you're adding some oxygen. So you have to add some oxygen to the product as well. I'm sure you've revised your required practicals, but remember that for required practical 1, when you're making your crystals at the end, you're not going to use a Bunsen burner. You're going to heat the solution gently using an electric heater or a hot water bath. And that's linked to number 24, which is that we want to make sure that not all of the water has evaporated. You need a little bit left or you don't get any crystals. 25, products of electrolysis. If you're electrolysing a solution, then at the negative electrode, you're either going to make hydrogen or something less reactive than hydrogen. But number 26, you're not actually allowed to call them jewellery metals. You just have to say copper, silver, gold, platinum are all less reactive than hydrogen. If you are calculating a relative formula mass, then it's always going to be for 1 mole. So don't go using the coefficients in your calculation. An exothermic reaction is going to heat up, but the reason for that is that it is giving out energy. So energy that was in a chemical store becomes a thermal store. And then an endothermic reaction takes in thermal energy and stores it as chemical energy. If you're taking triple science, then you also need to know about chemical cells and fuel cells. So if your teacher has ever taught you the panic method for naming your electrodes in electrolysis, well, firstly, I'm low-key judging them. And secondly, it is perfectly opposite for the chemical cells. A better way of remembering, which you can use for both electrolysis and chemical cells, is that reduction with a C happens at the cathode and oxidation with an A happens at the anode. You're very likely to get some diagram-based questions in Chemistry Paper 1. Things like fill in the dots and crosses in a dot and cross diagram. So at the end of the exam, I want you to promise me that you're going to take your hand and run it down the right-hand edge of the paper, and everywhere that it says 1 mark, 2 marks, you're going to check that you've actually done something to earn those marks. Good luck for the exams, and I'll see you at the live stream.